What is going on with all these layoffs in the gaming industry? Is it heading for a big collapse? Probably not. Hi, welcome to ZGadgetReview. We're almost at the end of February 2024, and there's already been a total of about 8,000 people laid off in the gaming industry. The most recent one just happened yesterday by EA. They're going to lay off 670 employees across the company. Before that, we had Sony announcing that they were going to lay off 900 employees and even closing out one of their studios. And before that, one of the biggest ones this year was Microsoft, laying off 1,900 employees from their Xbox and gaming division in general. Today, I'm shooting this on February 29th. We have over 8,000 people who have lost their jobs in the gaming industry. I think the reason why it's happening is because we have all these profits that came from the pandemic and people were stuck at home and gaming had a resurgence. If you are a company that has investors, you gotta show your investors that you are making X amount of money and spending X amount of money. By spending X amount of money, you project that your profits are going to be X amount of money, right? And when the trend goes this way and then starts going this way, then your shareholders aren't happy that that's what's going on. And so you look for ways to cut and trim some of these expenses. And the first thing that you do is you trim out the people who work for you because it's some of the easiest things to trim. Or you have redundancy, like for example with Microsoft bought a gigantic company, in this case Activision. There's going to be redundancies within the company. The other thing that I think is happening with the industry is if you have been watching how the industry has been working in the last, we'll say 5 to 6 years, it's a trend chasing formula that most of these companies follow, right? You have, for example, PUBG became a huge thing, and then you have Fortnite that came out and kind of made the thing that PUBG was doing but better or different, and that caught on. And that made it for a lot of other companies to start making battle royale type games. We had Call of Duty, we had Apex Legends, games that you might not even remember, Rumbleverse, Hyperscape, name it, Battlefield. There were games trying to copy the same thing. But if you are chasing a trend that started, let's say, right now in 2024, let's take Pal World as an example. Became a huge phenomenon. It's a small development company, if I'm not mistaken, with very few employees. That means that you're going to have companies copying what Pal World is doing now to bring games later to try to cash into that. So if you're a gaming company who's going to start trying to make a game like Pal World, to copy what Pal World is doing and try to make it better, then that means that if you're starting now, your game most likely isn't going to come out until 2027, right? About 3 years is what the development cycle takes, if not longer. And by the time 2027 rolls around, could be that Power World is no longer a thing. Could be that Power World has become the worst game ever and people hate playing Power World. But you already made an investment to make your own PAL world. And so what do you do now? Do you release it or do you scrap it? And that, I think, is what's been happening a lot with the industry. You have all these Battle Royale games that started coming out and people started getting sick and tired of Battle Royale games. There's only a few Battle Royale games that are still left that actually make money. Then we had the looter shooters. And what do we have? We have Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League, which just came out. And that game took about 9 to 10 years in development to come out. It's a looter shooter demonetization game that is repetitive gameplay, and what they're banking on is that you're going to buy weapon skins, you're going to buy the costumes for the superheroes, they're going to be releasing new characters for you to play in upcoming seasons that of course you're going to have to buy, they're not going to be free. And so when you have a game like Suicide Squad that comes out and fails within a couple of weeks of release, then that becomes an issue for the company that has invested 10 years of time and money to make this game with the idea that it's going to be a huge success. Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League just released on February 2nd, 2024. So it has been out for 27 days in full general release. If we go to the player count for Suicide Squad right now, so I'm shooting this video, it's 494 players in game right now. All-time highest peak, 13,459 players. And the highest amount of players happened the next day that it was released on February 3rd. This game is a failure. It's a failure. This game was made by Rocksteady. Rocksteady is a company that make all the Batman Arkham series of games. And so the expectation for this game was sky high, right? Especially if we haven't had a game from Rocksteady in such a long time, you're expecting them to make something great. And so right now, I'm expecting to see layoffs from Rocksteady at some point. I'm expecting to see layoffs announced by WB Games at some point because this game failed. Now, why did this game fail? Because of chasing a trend. You're chasing a trend that people aren't necessarily going to be happy with. And you're putting so much money and resources into chasing that said trend that trend at the end of the day might not pay off once you catch on that trend. And I think that's what's happening with the industry right now, is that they're working on catching a trend, and the moment they get to that moment of release for the trend that they've been chasing, the trend is done or the trend is in the decline, and so the game fails. There's things that the industry can see right now to learn a lot of lessons. We have, as I mentioned, Pal World, very small developers, early access, a game that caught on and the people like to play. It has its issues because early access, but people for the most part like to play that game. Then we have Helldivers 2. Helldivers 2 is another game by a small amount of people, small developers who are focusing first on gameplay, who are focusing first on the experience. The game became so popular that their servers were crashing all the time. This is, of course, a multiplayer game, all online, and so you need to be able to get on a server in order to play the game. The developers came out and said, our servers are at capacity. They cannot take anymore. So don't buy the game. Hold on from buying the game until we fix the servers. Yes, they told people to not buy their game until their servers were fixed. That is the way to treat your customers. And so if we're looking at this trend right now of what's happening with the industry needs to right itself, right? The industry needs to decide, are we going to continue chasing trends, or are we going to put our money on new experiences, or are we going to put our money on developing games that people haven't played yet, instead of just doing remakes and remasters and all that? I mean, Last of Us 2 just got remastered, and that game doesn't need a remaster. If you've seen the comparisons between the original game, the remaster game, it is very, very hard to tell what the big difference is. It's just a cash grab by Sony. All the effects of everything that's happening right now, we're going to see in the future, in the next few years, in the future game developments, because you have the people who are actually getting fired are usually the people with the most experience because they cost the most money. So if you're going to trim your workforce, you're going to start with the people who cost the most and the people who you can get rid of because they don't matter. You're probably going to keep the director, you're probably going to keep the producer, or like the heads, but underneath those heads, you have people with experience too who got to that position because of their experience and the time that they put in working in the industry. Once you get rid of those people because they cost the most, now you have a hole of people without the experience. And so you start bringing up people who are not as experienced, who are cheaper. That is going to affect game development in the future and the quality of games and the type of games that we're getting. Another perfect example, again, is Rocksteady. Rocksteady, the people who created Rocksteady, the people who made all those Arkham games, are not in the studio anymore. All those people who made the Arkham games left during the development of Suicide Squad. And now we see what happened with Suicide Squad. There's also been AI. AI has infiltrated these companies where they think they can use AI to replace the people who were doing art, to replace the people who were writing scripts. To me, right now, the industry is in flux, right? There's a lot of changes happening because of how technology is changing, because of the way companies want to monetize their games. I don't think that this is going to change until companies realize, just like Helldivers, that you have to give us the experience first. You have to hook us into what the game is. The game has to be good first before you can monetize it, before you can try to sell us things and the seasons and all the other crap that comes along with that nowadays. Suicide Squad is a perfect example of building a game backwards. Helldivers is a perfect example of building a game the right way. And the gaming industry needs to remember the first priority of your game is to be fun, to engage your player, and to keep your player wanting to come back. That's something that Call of Duty has been able to do for years, despite people complaining about Call of Duty being the same thing and recycle, blah, blah, blah. And I agree with you 100%. I'd be the first one to say that. But the one thing that Call of Duty does right is it keeps you coming back. I really hope that the industry doesn't crash and burn like it looks like it's about to do. I really hope that heads in these studios, yes, are going to think money first and business first because it's just the way it works. But they also realize that if you don't fix what you're doing now, that money, that business is just going to go away. Have you been affected by the layoffs in the gaming industry? Do you know any people who has been affected? Do you have any questions or comments about what's going on right now with the gaming industry? Let me know in the comment section. That is it for me. Go ahead and subscribe. Give us a thumbs up. It really helps the channel. Go ahead and hit that bell so you can be alerted every time we have new videos. Thank you very much for watching.